Okay, we've talked about letting go of our assumptions. We've talked about context. One last thing, we need to talk just briefly about genre. We read the newspaper different than we read the comics. We read a novel different than we read a textbook. So, this is important. One last thing, we need to understand the genre of the Bible that we're reading. Basically, the Bible is made up of a variety of different types of genre, including narrative, which is just a fancy word for stories, history, prophecy, poetry, law, letters, and more. And we read each genre a little bit different from the others, just like we read the newspaper different from the comics. Gordon Fee and Douglas Stewart have a great book called How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. And I feel like this is just a terrific resource for understanding context and genre a little bit better. But on page 111, they list 10 rules for studying narratives. Uh, for beginners and for beginning, I narrow it down because it's hard to keep in mind 10 things. I've narrowed it down to 3 rules. So here's Carmen's simplified version. Rule number 1, Scripture is about God, not me. Yes, the narrative and the Bible is here. God has gifted it to us for our benefit, but it's not about us. The stories are about God. The stories are about the characters in the story. The hero of these stories will always be God. I can't emphasize that enough. The hero of the story will always be God. Okay, so scripture is about God, not me. Number 2, read these stories literally. Read literally. There are no symbols, there are no allegories, there are no hidden meanings. We don't want to read anything into the text that is not there. We'd just be adding something to the text. Read literally. Learn directly from true stories about real people. All right, and number 3, then look for the spiritual lesson. These are real people. Like us, they are infallible and finite. Well, what does that mean? Well, they make mistakes and then they die. Relate with them, identify with them, walk in their shoes, ask, well, what did they feel? What did they endure? What did they do right? What did they do wrong? It is okay to learn by comparing our lives to theirs. Let's learn from them, whether good or bad. Let's not make the same mistakes that they made. And if they were faithful, let's follow in their example. So find the spiritual lessons and learn a principle for living and walking with God. That's our goal, right? Walking with God. So, the 3 rules for studying Old Testament narrative: number 1, God is always the hero. Number 2, read literally. Number 3, look for the spiritual lesson. Let me know if you have any questions whatsoever. I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we begin our Bible study.